Hi, welcome to Pain and Revival podcast. I'm going to be your host, Nevaeh Grace. This podcast is mainly going to be about survivor stories, how they got through what they went through, and hopefully the goal is to inspire young people, old people, just all people, and to give them hope and to remind them that just because they went through something doesn't mean that their life is over and that their life is doomed. Today, I'm going to be talking about my story, what I went through, so that you understand where I'm coming from, and what kind of gave me the motivation to start this podcast. Would like a disclaimer because I am not a licensed professional, and in no way am I'm not qualified in anything if whatever I say is not professional advice. So please keep that in mind. So I want to start with when I was young, I was in and out of foster care. The system wasn't the same for me, though. I never actually went to a foster home. I stayed with my grandparents, my dad's parents. I was exposed to wonderful things with my grandparents. I was allowed to be a kid, and I was exposed to my passion, chiropractic. And I would also like to say that, I'm going to talk about chiropractic, and this is not like a chiropractic podcast. But it did help me through lots of things, and it's part of the reason I am who I am today. So, yeah, and I'm probably going to talk about religion, and if you don't agree with my religion, that's okay. We all have different beliefs, and that's fine. But I'd like to say, this is not a religious podcast. It's not a chiropractic podcast. This is just my story. Yeah. So in third grade, let's fast forward to third grade because the years prior to that they're not really relevant to what I consider my story. So when I was in third grade, I lived with my grandparents because my Nana, which is my mom's mom, got accused of abuse, which she never abused us. That was not true. I will say that was not true. But it did. There was probably some mental abuse and some manipulating and some neglecting, which is not legal. You're not supposed to do that. I don't think that's legal. I'm not sure, but but it happened to me, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. I hated living with my grandparents in third grade. Well, I won't say I hated it. I just didn't like it. It's not where I wanted to be. It wasn't what I wanted. And I wanted to be with my Nana because I had that mother-daughter bond with her. And she was like everything to me. And I wasn't allowed to live with her. To me, she was like an angel. She never did any wrong in my eyes, which, can I just say, please never let anyone make you think that they can never do any wrong, because we're all humans. We make mistakes. And if they're trying to convince you that they never do any wrong, that's probably a big red flag, okay? We should definitely look out for that, whether it's in a relationship with a spouse or if it's with family or whatever. It doesn't matter. The first few, I had visits on and off with my Nana during when I was in third grade. And I thought it was great. I thought I was living a good life. My mom wasn't around. Well, she was for one part of it, but DFACS found out. She got in trouble for it. When I lived with my grandparents, I was good. I was really good, and I got exposed to chiropractic, which is a big thing for me because that's my passion. That's what I want to be. I want to be a chiropractor and I want to change the world. And I'm trying my hardest and working so hard, and it's so tiring, but it's going to pay off in the end. I know. Um, I'm working on myself. I'm working on my school just so I can be a chiropractor and hopefully do great things. Um, because I chose to rise above my situation. So you should do the same. When I was in after 3rd grade, I ended up living with my nana. I got they sent me back to live with her. Social services did. And when I lived with her, the first few months, like, I thought I had a pretty good life going. Like, I thought everything was great. Um, I mean, my mom came around and my nana and my mom got into fights, which I was pretty used to. Um, Once I got to be probably 8, late 8, when I was 8, about to turn 9, like, it started to get really bad. I was dealing with my brother trying to be his mom because they neglected him, they neglected me, and they were fighting, and one time I tried to get in between them. I tried to break up a fight, and this is, like, when I, like, knew my mom wasn't normal. She wasn't kinda sane, because I got in between them. I was in a doorway, and she looked me in my eyes, and she goes, "I need you to move or mommy's gonna have to do something she doesn't want to do." And in that moment, like, I knew. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, that's not normal," and I'm terrified. Like, I was terrified. Um, I never really got scared that much with really anything that they did because I was used to it. It was like, "Oh, your parents are not beating each other to death? Oh, that's weird." You know? Like, I just thought it was normal. Um, the hardest part during that time was taking care of my brother because he had PTSD and he's on the spectrum. So, getting him to calm down and just remain cool was really hard. It was so hard. But, I learned how to do it and I figured him out. Um, during that happened during 4th grade year. When I was in 4th grade, it was really bad. Towards the end of 4th grade year, my mom started to physically abuse me. She blacked both my eyes one time, like, and that was, like, the first abuse time, really, and it was so bad. Like, I was terrified, and the crazy thing is, like, my nana did not even do anything. Like, when I told her it happened, she was just like, "Well, whatever." Like, kinda like, "Okay, what did you do?" And I was like, "Um, I don't think that's I don't think it matters what I did, you know? Like, I didn't do it." Okay, so I was I was sitting on the edge of a seat. My mom was in between us, we were on the way back from the grocery store, and we had bread in between us, and I was sitting on, like, the edge right where it's to the door, and she looked at me, she said, "I need you to move over because you're squishing the bread." And I was like, "Mama, I can't, like, I'm on the edge of the seat, like, there's no more room," you know? And she, like, lost it. She was like, "Don't you ever talk to me like that." Back talk, and, she got really mad, and she started to beat me up, and I did defend myself, of course, because that's just I don't know, I don't know, it's just instinct. And I definitely blacked her eyes too, but, you know, stuff like that happened, and it was really bad. And, like, one time, she pulled my hair and, like, beating the back of my neck, like, crazy stuff like that. It was crazy. And it took me a whole year after that stuff happened for me to realize, hey, this is not normal. You need to get some help. Um, with all that happening, the summer of fourth grade year, I got really depressed. Like, I felt like no one loved me. By the way, this fourth grade year, I was not going to DE. And if I didn't already say, DE is a chiropractic conference my grandma runs. It's where I found out that I want to be a chiropractor. These people are the best people on the earth there. You've never met anyone nicer there. They give the best hugs. They're just the best people ever, dude. Anyways, sorry. I love to go on about all my DE family. I hadn't been going to DE for a year, and I got really depressed. I started self-harming. I hated myself. You know, my mom was telling me I was ugly, I was stupid, I was a mistake, all this stuff. And I started to fail my classes, which I had never, not to brag, but I had never failed a class before prior to this. And that was really taking a toll on me because I've always tried to be like a perfect student and never do anything wrong. And I started to not be the teacher's favorite anymore, which was not where I wanted to be, you know. I always wanted to be everyone's favorite, and I started to not be. I was not a nice person. I started to be pretty ugly to people. Um, I was just really in a deep, deep, dark hole of depression, and I was really mean to myself. Stuff got really bad. In fifth grade, I started going back to DE because I wanted to. Like, I just knew something in me, which I believe is God, my innate, was telling me, you need to go back to DE. You need to, like, it can help you. And I listened, and thank the Lord that I did listen. Going there really, for me, it was like a breath of fresh air. Like, every time I went there, I was the nicest person. Like, I became so nice, and I just, my heart was just so open and overflowing, and I felt the best I had ever felt. Like, I was doing so good at DE. And then, like, it was like right when I left, it was like nothing. Nothing. I I kind of feed off of other people's energy. I don't know if that's weird, but that's how I feel. Like, I feed off of other people's energy, and I believe that when I was there, I was getting all of this energy from these people, and I could feel it. And so it would change my mood because of who I was surrounded by, you know? When you surround yourself by bad people, you're gonna become a bad person, and when you surround yourself by bad people and depressed people, you're gonna become bad and depressed, you know? Um, but when you surround yourself by really good people and people who are trying to change the world and trying to do great things and just love out of their own abundance and do all this great stuff, you start to become one of them. No matter what you've done, like, you can change your life. That was something I never understood, is that just because of other stuff I've done doesn't mean I'm not a good person. It doesn't mean I can't become a good person again. You know, God doesn't create trash. You are perfect the way you are. But sometimes you need to change some stuff. You know, if you're out here beating up people on the street for no reason, that's something that needs to change. And that's not how God created you to be. You did that. That's you. Um, well, I just got sidetracked. Like, that was not what I was supposed to say. But um, after going to DE, I was getting the idea that my life wasn't normal. I didn't like my life. I wanted something better. I don't remember who it was, but at one of the DEs, somebody gave a talk about what's holding you back. It was a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people talk about that at DE. And what was holding me back was my own family. You know, my mom was holding me back. My Nana was holding me back. And when I would come back from DE, like, I would tell my mom all about it. And I'm like, Mama, this is so great. You want to see what happened? Like, look what I did. I spoke at Parade of Stars, which is an event, like, a thing that they do at DE. And the big thing about it is, people go up there, these two amazing women call people up and ask them to share their story, quick 2 minutes. So for my 2 minutes, instead of sharing my story or sharing what I wanted to say, I couldn't because I was being abused, and that's really what I wanted to say. Like, my heart was so heavy, and I felt like I had the whole world on my shoulders, but I couldn't say anything, and so I just cried. And I feel like people thought I was so stupid because I just cried, and then at the end of it, I was like, "Oh, I wanna be a chiropractor?" Like, it was so bad, but it helped me. It kind of changed me a little bit because it reminded me that you are being silenced on something that doesn't need to be silenced. You should never let someone else silence you. You have a voice and you can use it. Whether you're male, female, a child, an adult, an old person, it doesn't matter. You can use your voice. But, after that DE, I was really close to being like, I'm so done. And then there was another D after that, and it was good, and I just cried the whole week through, and in between each DEs, I was, still getting abused, and my life was still really hard, and I didn't really have any food, so I was really malnourished and really skinny and really sick. I got so sick to the point where one time I hadn't eaten in like 2 weeks. And I got really sick and I started to throw up and but I wasn't throwing up, I was literally just throwing up. I don't even know. Like acid, I guess. But it was like it was so bad. Like it had gotten really bad and I went to another DE and it was the last DE of the year. It was in Clearwater, Florida, and Dr. Steve Jetson, he has a podcast as well, Wake Up Humans. You should really go check that out. He gave a talk about being selfish. And to me, that was a really new concept because I was taught that being selfish is a bad thing. Like, never be selfish, always be selfless. It's give to everyone, do everything for everyone, just be a pleaser, basically. Be a people pleaser. And, that's kind of who I am. But it's not healthy. And in this case, it was really bad for me because I was being harmed and I was harming myself, and it was not a good thing. So when he kept saying, like, you need to be selfish, sometimes it's okay to be selfish. Like, sometimes you have to not worry about what everyone else is, doing because it's not your business, It's not your fault that your mom is a drug addict, which my mom was, it's not my fault. I didn't do that. It's not my fault that my Nana wasn't protecting me and doing what she should be doing for me. That's not my fault. It's not my fault that my brother was being neglected and he didn't have a mother and I had to be that. That's not my fault. I shouldn't have been taking control over that. I shouldn't have been doing that. That wasn't my job. But I did it, and I did it anyways. So when he gave that talk about being selfish, it really kind of, struck me, and I was like, wow, girl, we got some work to do, A few weeks after that DE, I went and stayed at my aunt's house. She had just moved to our town. My cousin was having a birthday party. So I went there and I had a great time. But at the end of it, I was really, really sad and I did not want to go home. And I literally cried. I was like, please, I don't want to go home. Don't take me home. Can I stay here? I love it here. And she was like, well, I can't keep you here. Like, you have to go home. But she did say, she said, "Well, instead of just taking you straight home, we'll take her son home first because her son lived with his dad and he lived an hour away from us." So she said, "Well, let's go ahead and take him home and then we'll drop you off after that instead of doing it the other way around." And so I said, "Okay." So we did that and I told her on the way there, I told her everything that had been happening. I said, "I'm being abused, it's really bad. I don't want to go home. I'm really depressed." And she said, "Okay, well, where do you want to go?" And I was like, "I want to go to my grandparents," because me and my grandparents had talked about me moving in with them prior to this, just because I told them like I was taking care of my brother and it was really hard and my brother was mean and all this stuff. Because my brother he was mean. Like it was really bad. But um towards the end, like at the end of the car ride, she was like, "Okay, let's call your grandparents." So we called my grandparents. They recommended taking me to the police, but I didn't have any visible markings or bruisings on me. I mean, I had scars, but you know, a scar could be from anything. Even if I say what it's from, like that doesn't really matter necessarily. So we were like, "Okay, well, we won't take her to the police." Um, and my aunt recommended, she said, "Well, talk to your therapist. Tell your school therapist about what's going on, and she can probably help you." So when I got home, um, it took me a few weeks, but I finally spoke to my therapist. I had 3 of them, and I spoke to all 3 of them, and I told them I blamed it all on the living situation because I was like, "Living situation's bad enough. I don't really wanna go into the abuse. You have to prove it," and I didn't wanna do that, it was just I didn't wanna go through that. Um, and I told them, and they a few days later called me back up to the principal's office and said, "We have a social services worker who's here to talk to you and like you to tell her everything you told us." So I spoke to the social worker and she was really nice and she said, "Okay, um, I will come for a home visit, a surprise one so that they don't have time to clean up or anything." So that's what she did. A few days later, she came and she walked through the house and she said, "Okay, well, we're gonna take her somewhere else. Do you have anywhere you can go?" And she asked my Nana that, and she was like, "Well, she can go to her grandparents." So that worked out great. And we called my grandparents, and they were like, "Of course," and they were right on the way as soon as I told them. I'm so thankful for them, so thankful for God, because God played the biggest role in this. He gave me the strength. He made me who I am and made me have these personality traits that got me through it and made me fear. I mean, maybe not fear. Um, he spoke to me and changed my life, and chiropractic did as well. Going through chiropractic, like going to DE when I was going through this, changed everything. Like, if I hadn't gone to DE, I don't think I would have ever said anything to my aunt or ever said anything to anyone, and I probably wouldn't be alive today. Um, the hardest part, honestly, of leaving was leaving my brother. He was screaming and crying when I was leaving, and he was like, "I don't want you to go. Like, will you please stay?" And I told him, I was like, "Bubby, I can't. Like, I have to go. But I promise I'll see you again soon." And the mistake I made was I said soon. And I mean, I just told him I'd see him again, and I don't know if that's necessarily the truth, and I hate breaking promises, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep this promise. So it's really hard on me. But we all make mistakes and we all say things that we don't necessarily mean. And yeah, I mean, it was a hard situation, but I'm living such a better life now. I guess the point of me saying all that was just to remind you that there's good in every story and there's hope for you. whatever your circumstances are, it doesn't matter, because if I hadn't gone through what I'd gone through, I wouldn't have found my passion, which is to help people. And for me, that means chiropractic. It had such an impact on me, like chiropractic did, because I saw the way it changed people. Like right before my eyes, it was changing people. And I don't know, you can't tell me it's not real when I saw it happen. Um, you know, chiropractic has helped me so much, and I'm just so, so thankful to everyone there who went to DE, because maybe they don't realize it, but even if you just waved at me in the hallway, it literally changed my life. Your energy, I fed off of it, and I felt the way you love. These people love for no reason. Like, I was always such a big believer in you can't love someone that you don't know. But these people will show you that you can love anyone. It doesn't matter who they are, where they're from, what they've done. They will love you. And to me, that you can't, there's nothing beats that. It changed my life. And I hope that, my hope is that one day I can change so many people's lives and just inspire them and give them some hope that no matter how bad your situation is, you can change the world if that's what you want to do. Just listen to your gut. Follow your gut. Listen to what it has to say. Listen to innate, it works. Get adjusted, that's the biggest thing. Like when you're clear, when your nervous system is clear, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. It really is. You function better. I went through some hard stuff, but I can't let that hold me back. And if you are one of those people who like to sit around and mope in your feelings and, oh, well, I went through this and it was horrible. Yeah, you did. That's great. Get up and change the world. Go talk to someone. And I have really bad anxiety, and I'm pretty introverted, which is kind of ironic since I'm literally doing a podcast, but I have to get over it. I can't let my anxiety hold me back. Because if I let my anxiety hold me back, I wouldn't be right here right now. I wouldn't have ever spoken to my therapist. I would have never done any of the things I've done. Never. And I fight with anxiety every day. It's really hard for me. I was even on medication at one point for it. And I stopped that because medication, oh, Lord, don't get me started on that. Do not get me started on that. But, it's something I struggle with. But I choose to, every morning, I wake up and I choose, do you want to let your anxiety to define you, or do you want to overcome it and be the best version of yourself and change the world? And I want to change the world. Whether I will or not, that's up to God. It's not up to me. But I'm in control of my life. It's not up to your mom or your dad or what your family's done. It's up to you. You just have to choose whether you want to change the world or just let the world change you. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say. I really hope this helps someone and maybe gives you a little hope and changes your world. Thank you so much for listening to the first episode of Pain and Revival Through a Survivor's Eyes. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Thank you so much.